The Boston Celtics can now lay claim to another record. Not only do they have the most NBA championships in history, they are also the most expensive North American sports franchise in history. They have apparently sold today for $6.1 billion to some guy named Bill Chisholm. But it's a guy whose name you need to remember. Symphony Technology something? I don't know. It's a private equity firm in California. He is buying it off Wick Grousbeck, but apparently Wick is going to stay in the chair for a few years here. But Chisholm wins the bid. We know it had come down to about 4 at the beginning of this week. Sean Pagliuca was still in the running. The Phillies owner was still in the running, minority owner. The Friedkin Group that owns Roma and Everton were still in the running. But it goes to the guy who I think probably had the worst odds of all of those guys. The only one who wasn't in on sports already, guy who doesn't own a team. And that is William Bill Chisholm of Georgetown, Mass. And apparently an encyclopedic Celtics fan, big-time Celtics fan, buying the team. Now, the thing about this sale is, and we're going to break down every aspect that we know of in the next few minutes here, but the weird part about it is he doesn't just take over tomorrow. It's a 2-part sale in which the team will, this is 51%, so he'll be the majority owner, but he won't be the full owner until 27, 28 season, or maybe at the end of that season. But apparently they will also keep Wick Grousbeck on in the chair for 3 seasons. There was a report from Ramona Shelburne, which at this hour, we're still trying to put together a lot of the details here, as this was just made this morning. Ramona Shelburne reports, Wick Grousbeck says in a statement that the new Celtics owner, William Chisholm, has, quote, asked me to run the team as CEO and governor for the first 3 years and to stay on as his partner, and I am glad to do so, end quote. We've seen things like that kind of fizzle out before the expiration date before, but honestly, if you're a Celtics fan, that's about the best scenario that you can ask for right now. You know, you've got a guy who has the money. He's worth almost $8 billion. Okay. He is a Celtics fan. He grew up around here. He has asked Wick to stay on. Wick, who's done, no matter what you think of Wick, he's done a great job as the owner of the Celtics. And one of the great things that the Celtics have had throughout Wick's ownership is the continuity. Like, the guys who were in charge by the time he took over are pretty much still in charge. Obviously no Danny Ainge, but now it's Brad Stevens, guy who was the Celtics coach before and is probably the best executive in the league. Rich Gotham is still has a huge hand in running the team, and it was Pagliuca and Wick Grousbeck this whole time. And so now you continue on with some of that continuity that's built what is right now the best team in the NBA and the defending, the franchise in the NBA, the defending champs. The big questions with the new owners are going to be A, the luxury tax, and B, the arena. Start with the luxury tax part of this. All the Celtics fans really care about is whether they're going to have the balls to pay the luxury tax. CBA is coming up. Second apron is coming up. The Celtics are going to be in it with the team they've constructed right now. There were 2 options. You face that dead on and you remain a championship contender, or you blow it up after 1 title just so you can save some money. I think the Celtics have made the right choice so far. Whether the new ownership group, I guess owner, will do that remains to be seen. But that's really all Celtics fans care about. Because in this league now, there are 2 models to handling the salary cap. There's the Golden State model, and there's the everyone else model. The Golden State model is, we are willing to pay whatever the luxury tax is, and we will find extra avenues to making money. They obviously have great partnerships in Asia and things like that. And it's like, we will make up the money. But we have a championship team right now, championship core, Hall of Fame core. And now not so much, but certainly in this run of the dynasty, like, they kept it together and were willing to pay the price. And that's why I was really excited to hear that Jeff Lurie was was interested in the team, the Eagles owner, because he certainly has an organizational philosophy like that. It costs what it costs, but we know that the ultimate payoff is going to be winning championships and getting this city and this fan base totally indoctrinated, which it is. I mean, this is the greatest fan base in the NBA. It's the greatest sports town in America. And I think you have a guy, hopefully in Bill Chisholm, that understands that. Because, whatever you say about Wick, little rich kid, trust fund baby, he understood this city and this organization. And they were willing to do whatever it took. They made tough moves in there. And they ate a lot of money in order to make this team a championship contender and really a contender for the lion's share of the time that they have owned the team, which is not an easy thing to do. It's very easy to make money off an NBA franchise. It's very difficult to be a contender as long as the Celtics have been under the Wyc Grousbeck, Sean Pagliuca ownership. And that, to me, is what Celtics fans have been spoiled with. And that's all they should care about going into this move is what they're going to do with the luxury tax. Is it a bit of a bummer? Like in a perfect world, we would have liked the Pagliuca, Rob Hale ownership group, but that was always a long shot just on capital, on funds, on whether they were going to be able to afford it. When you start hearing the Bezos name dropped in there, it's not exactly the kind of environment for guys like Pagliuca and Rob Hale, who are two of the controlling owners right now. But I think and the other thing too is maybe I'm naive about this as a guy who's only grown up in the Wyc Grousbeck ownership era for the Celtics. But I think Celtics fans can trust Wyc in this, because a lot of owners, whether they love the team or not, would have just sold highest bidder. All right, have fun with it. I'm going to Florida. But he's not doing that. He's like, I'll stay in the seat. I like doing this. I care about this team. It was my dad's money. So I care about this team. And so I think I do trust Wyc Grousbeck in making that decision. And from, again, the final four that we had talked about, those final four groups, I think what was great about it, the Friedkin group was close to this, but you didn't have an FSG type. You didn't have a conglomerate that just wanted to buy up a bunch of teams. European soccer teams, that's different. That's a completely different business venture. And that's probably why the Friedkin group didn't win out. But, you had a minority owner in the Phillies, and you had guys who own the team now, and you had a guy who was itching to get into not just ownership of any team, but like one of his teams, the Boston Celtics. So we don't know a lot about Bill Chisholm. You'd be hard pressed to find a Google image picture of him. I barely found one for this thumbnail of the video, but he's your new owner of the Boston Celtics. It might be 3 years before you really see him running the team, but he'll have a press conference and everything. That's your new ownership group. The luxury tax was the first thing they've got to handle. The second thing is the arena. I think it shocked a lot of people to see that $6.1 billion price tag and being the most expensive sports franchise ever bought on the open market, because they don't own their own arena. They don't control their own game day revenue. So that's going to be a really interesting hurdle for this next ownership team, is how they handle that. There were obviously all kinds of rumors coming in, what's someone going to do, like when they buy the team? They're going to want to build their own arena the same way Steve Ballmer just did with the Clippers. That seems like the obvious first move. And honestly, that was the rumor of why it was holding up the sale. Was anybody going to go to that price tag that Wyc was going to set out there if they weren't going to have their own arena? That's a big part of this. And there is a scenario that might be uncomfortable for Celtics fans, that in 2028 or so, 27 maybe, that they have a situation where they're still in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's prime, towards the end of their prime, but still in it, and still have a championship window. And then maybe the ownership group doesn't want to pay the luxury tax because they're funding a new arena, because the taxpayers ain't paying for it. They're not paying for, an Encore casino arena in Everett. So that is going to be more fascinating to me than even the luxury tax stuff, because I think Wick is making a sale to a guy who he knows is going to be okay with the luxury tax and going over all of that. But what they don't know is what this guy is going to think about, going through a year or two as the Celtics owner, looking at the books and saying, this isn't worth my investment with the money we're making back. Shit, the Bruins are making the most off my investment. I think that becomes a real possibility. But if you're a Celtics fan, this sale checks a lot of the boxes. And the main one being that the guy is from here. Again, he might be a Bill Simmons situation where he hasn't been here in a long time. I don't know if this sale is Bill Simmons approved yet, but he is from here. He should understand Boston and the Celtics. He should. And, with Boston being, the mad sports town that it is, the insular sports town that it is, that is the most important part. Still nothing from Bill Simmons. So it's not been, maybe he's working to several outlets this morning. That certainly looks like it will be the case. He's getting partner 6th Street Partners, 6th Street, and now the part at Arctos Partners. They have a bunch of investments in other teams. So they're obviously just kind of like on board. They're not one of the principal owners, but they've invested in, according to Sportico, they've invested in the Warriors, the 76ers, Kings, and Jazz, and Blue Owl, the other one in there, holds stakes in the Hawks, Timberwolves, and Kings. So that's kind of a, hey, show me the ropes kind of thing. But also having Wick Grousbeck there for 3 years is certainly going to help. And Wick said in a letter today, he said, quote, "This was an extremely thorough, rigorous sale process. We had tremendous interest from potential control owners, and we're grateful for all the considerable time and effort bidders put in over the last few months, especially in the end. Bill and the group he put together came in with a superior final bid." That's the superior final bid, not superior final plan, not superior, outlook, superior final bid. I'm fascinated to hear what the other, investors in the running were willing to bid on a team that didn't own its own arena. That's a lot of money to be paying for Celtic pride, So that to me is and maybe that's the best sign. Maybe that's the ultimate sign that he's ready to go in and invest on this team, not just this franchise, but this team, because clearly he was the highest bidder. He said $6 billion, you say? Huh. Yeah, sure. Why not? He was like, I want the Celtics that bad that I'm going to pay $6 billion for them. So maybe that's the ultimate sign of good fortune for the Celtics, is that they are willing to go for the $6 billion. It's been a weird process because it's been very quiet. It was obviously weird timing. They put the team up for sale right after they won the title. And so we don't know how long that's been in the works of Irv Grousbeck saying, Wick, it's time to sell the team. It's my money. It's time to sell the team. And maybe that was in the works in, 2022. And they said, but we're so close to a championship. Can we get a championship first? Let me lift the trophy first one more time. And they got it. And literally within a week, I want to say, maybe 2, they were selling the team. They said it was up for sale. And it's been a lot of hush-hush. There's been some big names thrown out there, Bezos being the biggest one. FSG kept coming back into the fire, like back into the fray here. It was like we kept hearing FSG bounce back in, bounce back out. That kept us on pins and needles. And now you get maybe the best of both worlds in Bill Chisholm. A guy who doesn't have controlling stakes in other teams. This is the team that he works for, that he owns. And is a local guy. He's got the money, has shown already that he's willing to go above the asking price, potentially, or above what anyone else is going to do. And he's a local guy, and he doesn't own anybody else, doesn't own any other teams. If you're a Celtics fan and I gave you those three things to begin the process, you'd say, I don't care who the guy is. I don't care what the name is. I don't care if I've heard of him or not. If he fits those three criteria, I'm in. And right now the Celtics are in with Bill Chisholm, the new owner of the Boston Celtics, for a record price, $6.1 billion. There is some bad news for the Celtics fans in this. I just saw this on Twitter in the break before we came into this segment. And that is from Adrian Torres at @yo_a_t on Twitter, talking about wishful thinking for Boston fans. I just looked it up, and as of early 25, the Lakers are worth $8.07 billion. Yup, still worth more than Boston, no matter how many trophies they have. So congratulations to the Lakers, I think is really what we need to get after today. Congratulations to the Lakers, who are still apparently worth more than the Boston Celtics, who do have more NBA championships than the Lakers. But I guess they'll be able to lord that one over us. And the Eagles fans are kicking themselves today, seeing how much the Cowboys are worth. Anyway, we are live here every weekday, high noon Eastern time on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcasts. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air.